As part of this social distancing, I'm on the final chapter of this book and came across this mini chapter because I'm on the last chapter. This is a sub chapter and it's titled Bryant. I haven't read it yet, so I thought I'd read it out. Yeah. During the NBA's pre-draft camp in 2008, he sat alone, high in the end zone seats of the Disney Sports Complex in Orlando, watching the college hopefuls and free agents run through drills and games on the floor below. He seemed distracted enough that when a reporter asked for an interview, Jordan agreed, as if glad to be relieved from watching lesser players seemingly running in sand. The interviewer's questions eventually got around to Kobe Bryant. Phil Jackson had won 3 championships earlier in the decade in Los Angeles. And that spring, the Lakers had again come alive, led by Kobe Bryant. Jordan had watched with interest as Bryant filled his old role in the triangle offense, working for Jackson and Winter. The Lakers guard had spent years trying to be like Mike, from his shaved head as a teen to the aped Jordan mannerisms, although Bryant went out of his way to deny that he was a copycat. He was, it seemed, the best of a generation of Jordan wannabes, of the legion of players who sought to inherit the mantle. Bryant was the one, perhaps, who actually could. Jordan himself had long been an interested observer of Bryant's pageant, as had Jackson and his staff. Comparisons of the two players routinely generated heated debates on the internet. Frankly, Jordan didn't see what all the fuss was about. After all, human behavior is mimetic. Humans copied and aped one another, like every rock band that for decades had sought to be the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, who themselves had derived so much from the great American bluesmen of previous generations. Obviously, his play had created a path for Bryant, Jordan observed that day. But how many people lighted the path for me? That's the evolution of basketball. There's no way I could have played the way I played if I didn't watch David Thompson and guys prior to me. There's no way Kobe could have played the way he's played without watching me play. So, that's the evolution of basketball. You cannot change that. In conversation, it quickly became obvious that Jordan respected Bryant, without any hint of condescension. He respected any player who did the work, who had the mental toughness. Bryant passed both of those tests, he said. So he's not one that's so different than me, but he is different than me. People just have to understand that and realize that you may not see a lot of similarities. Realize that you may see a lot of similarities, but he's definitely different. Even if you set aside Bryant's obvious debt to Jordan, what made the comparison so interesting for Jordan was the fact that Bryant played in the same triangle offense that he did, with the same coaching architects, Jackson and Winter, in a system that created room for a superstar to operate, Jordan said. The triangle's a great offense to get people to spacing, to get people to get spacing, to get in the right position, but then you've got talented people like Kobe who can play it and involve everybody and make everybody that much better. Winter had begun developing his system years before, based on 6 principles of team play. But when he started coaching Jordan in 1985, he realized that you needed a 7th principle, that an extremely talented player can trump all other principles. You have to adjust everything for a great player. You have to adjust everything for a great player, Winter had long conceded. Tex is absolutely right, Jordan said that day, smiling, remembering his many moments in Bulls practice with Winter fussing about one issue or another. and Kobe's going through the same process. That fans resented Bryant's own journey through the system was silly, Jordan observed. Kobe does everything. When you talk about greatness or success, success is very similar, no matter what. It's nothing you're going to say of anyone previous of you because you've got to have similar characteristics to achieve it. It's nothing you're going to say of anyone previous of you because you've got to have similar characteristics to achieve it. It wasn't so much about copying a style as it was about pursuing a proven formula for success, Jordan said. And success is in store for him. He's done the work to do that, to achieve that. Jordan indicated that he had been able to relive some of his own career by watching Bryant. The two had shared phone conversations about things that only they could understand. Told during the 2008 Championship Series that Jordan had said flattering things about him, Bryant's ears perked up immediately, almost like a kid hungry for an autograph. MJ was talking about me? He asked. That's my man. It was obvious that Bryant drew support and confidence from the relationship. A few years earlier, the Lakers coaching staff had concluded that Bryant and Jordan were much alike, almost eerily so, when it came to the alpha male qualities of their competitive natures. The two were ruthless when it came to winning, everyone agreed. And their skills were similar, although Jordan's hands were larger. The major difference between the two came with college experience. Jordan had played in the basketball system at North Carolina, thus, he was better prepared to accept Winter's triangle, the team concept. Bryant had come into the league directly from high school with stars in his eyes. I tend to think how very much they're alike, Winter observed. They both display tremendous reaction, quickness, and jumping ability. Both have a good shooting touch. Some people say Kobe is a better shooter, but Michael really developed as a shooter as he went along. I don't know if Kobe is a better shooter than Michael was at his best. Jackson too acknowledged the similarities but allowed that there was only one Jordan. Observers like to point out that Jordan played on a Bulls team with no great center, but Winter also countered that Jordan was a great post-up player and, indeed, was the premier post weapon of his time. Bryant himself came into the NBA with great post skills, but there was never room for him to play in the post with Shaquille O'Neal occupying the lane during their years together with the Lakers. Winter doubted that Jordan would have been a good fit playing with O'Neal. In a lot of ways, Bryant was Jordan's equal as a post player, Winter said, except for one critical element. Jordan was much stronger, the coach said. Michael had a knack for holding his ground a little better than Kobe. Like Jordan, Bryant found much of his success playing small forward instead of guard. Like Jordan, Bryant found much of his success playing small forward instead of guard, which allowed him to work behind the defense, as Winter had often explained it. Even with all of Bryant's offensive success, Winter said that the Lakers needed to keep the ball moving, that Bryant's teammates still deferred to him too much, just as they did with Jordan. Another difference, according to Winter, was their leadership style. Jordan admitted to harsh, sometimes cruel treatment of his teammates to get them ready to perform under pressure, whereas Bryant took a kinder, gentler approach. Then there was the incomparable Pippen. You could not overestimate the contribution of Pippen, Winter often said. Interesting that. I've read it now. So interesting that says here small forward, but I think every time it would be starting five, it would be G, G, C, F, F, G, G, C, F, F, and I yeah. Maybe this is a misprint, or maybe this is what I'm trying to allude at is that I thought both Jordan and Kobe played shooting guard rather than small forward, but I could be wrong there. So it's just interesting that in this mini chapter, that's what Lazenby said. So yeah, could I read that for you? And maybe that will settle some of the arguments. Not that it even matters anymore. But yeah, all good. Got a couple more pages to go, and then I'm done with this book. And then it's off to, let's see, Blood on the Horns, When Nothing Else Matters, Hang Time, The Jordan Rules. It's a lot to read. A lot of time to read as well.